Cool. So, hi guys, welcome to another ETHDenver 2022 in-person hackathon project demo session. This is Chris from DoraHacks. Very glad and exciting to be here and host you guys today. About the ETHDenver 2022, we have 171 project submissions in the end, and they all did a really good job. And we are super exciting to see 30 teams emerged among all of them and be the finalist teams. And today we have two of them with us. They are DoerDAO and also Kiyomi. And without further ado, let's welcome the first project today, which is DoerDAO to present. And remember, guys, if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to ask in our YouTube chat room. Yeah, and feel free to start and share the screen when you are ready. DoerDAO team.
Okay, thank you. Here, let me. All right, is everything hooked up and working? So hi, I'm Bo. I'm here from DoerDAO, and today we're going to have a conversation about meta governance and the anti-capture framework and how we implemented it in our hackathon build. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is meta governance. I don't know that there is quite a settled definition yet. I've seen a couple of different people propose different ideas of what meta governance is. One of the best ones I've seen was by OX Kaido, and he produced an article not too long ago where he detailed the FEI protocol's attempt to list themselves on the Aave lending platform. And they leveraged some tokens from a couple of different DAOs in order to accomplish this. And that interconnectedness is what he calls meta governance, so that leverage that they use. So let's talk about that example really quick, and let's draw some conclusions from it. So let's talk first about the principal actors within this drama. There is first the FEI protocol, the index co-op, and the Aave lending platform. Now, the FEI protocol is a algorithmic stablecoin that's controlled by the Tribe DAO or governed by the Tribe DAO. And this algorithmic stablecoin, they wanted to list on the Aave lending platform. And so the problem is that the Aave governance, the Aave governance system is sort of token gated. You have to have around $20 million worth of Aave governance tokens, or at least did at the time, in order to submit a proposal to get a new token listed on their platform. And they didn't have $20 million. But what they did have was $4 million and some connections with Index Co-op. And Index Co-op, if you're unfamiliar, is a protocol that also produces index coins, specifically some DeFi index coins as well. And so in that capacity, they hold around $30 million worth of the Aave governance token. What FEI protocol did was buy 100,000 index tokens, which cost them about $4 million. That allowed them to create a proposal within the Index Co-op to use the Index Co-op's Aave tokens to create a proposal within the Aave governance or the Aave platform to list FEI, and they succeeded. So they leveraged this $4 million in order to take an action that would have normally cost around $20 million. And again, OX Kaido calls this meta governance, but I don't actually think that that's true. I think that that is not quite right in terms of meta governance. I think that that's the governance meta. And so let's talk a little bit about the governance meta versus meta governance. And to draw this conclusion, or to make this example a little bit clearer, let's talk about Magic the Gathering. If you're familiar, Magic the Gathering is a trading card game and is produced by Wizards of the Coast. They put out physical cards, which people then build into decks and then use in the competitive scene. Wizards of the Coast will regularly pay out millions of dollars to the highest performing members of this community who are very good at competitive Magic the Gathering. But one of the components of that is not just the cards being good themselves, but also understanding what strategies are best to employ in order to win these prizes. And so some decks are more powerful by virtue of the fact that their cards are more powerful. Some decks are better against more popular decks. And so you can see here, this is a meta-analysis of the kinds of strategies that are being employed, or at least were being employed at this time, in competitive Magic the Gathering. And that's what's called the meta, right? So when you go to a tournament and you're competing in this game, it is not only important that you are able to execute on the strategies, the decks that you choose, but also that you're choosing the correct decks in order to play the meta game, so that you are putting yourself in a position where your strategy is going to be a winning one. And let's take it from, I don't know, Web 0, Web 1 to Web 3 and talk a little bit about Gods Unchained. Those things that I said about the meta within Magic the Gathering are true of basically all trading card games, not just Magic the Gathering, but everything that came after it. So Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, and Gods Unchained, which is an NFT card game that is launched, I believe, on the Immutable X platform. And so it combines not only the scarcity of a physical card game like Magic the Gathering, but also the easy ability of developers to augment the rules of the game and, the ease of playing online, as opposed to having to come together in person and play, in a physical space for a tournament. And so, so this is a great example of what happens when a meta will also exist within Gods Unchained, like it will in Magic the Gathering. And when some decks or some strategies become too powerful, the developers and the game designers will come together and they'll say, okay, well, we're going to nerf some cards, or we're going to buff some cards because we think some strategies are not utilized enough, or some are utilized too much. And they govern the meta. They change the meta in order to achieve balance within the win rates of the different strategies that are being employed by the people that are playing a game. And that is meta governance. And that is the difference between meta governance and the governance meta. What Fade Protocol did was playing the governance meta by leveraging a strategy which allowed them to have more power in a system than was expected, rather than changing the rules of the game in order to achieve some level of balance, which is what meta governance would be. And it's what the developers hopefully are trying to achieve. To give another example, I'm sorry for the Western focus of my lens, but I do live in the United States. The bigger level example of this sort of interplay between meta governance and governance meta is like the US Constitution. The US Constitution, or any constitution, state level constitution, are the rules set for a deliberative body to arrive at decisions around shared resources, whether they be shared natural resources or tax resources. And so the difference here between meta governance and the governance meta in the United States is basically just pay whichever Congress people you want the most amount of money to get the thing that you want done. Whereas the meta governance would be the constitutional amendment process, whereby we change the nature of the Constitution, change the rules of the game in order to achieve different ends and arrive at different decision-making mechanisms. So I hope that was a good primer on governance or meta governance and the governance meta. So let's move from there into the anti-capture framework, which is what we actually implemented during the hackathon. So this is based on an article by Spencer Graham, which I would implore you to go and look at if you're interested in DAOs. But it details sort of what a capture-resistant governance mechanism looks like, or capture-resistance governance system looks like. And capture-resistant means that there are shared resources, specifically within DAOs, and you want to make sure that people within the DAO and without the DAO can't just steal all the funds from the treasury. There are a couple things to highlight within the article. First is that there are three principal actors within this concept, or three principal objects within this conception of DAOs. There are agents, there are shared resources or treasury funds, or whatever the shared resources might be within the DAO, and then there are actions. So agents, which can either be in network or out of network, take action over treasury funds or shared resources. And so this is what an action looks like within this anti-capture framework. There are four phases of an action: the proposal phase, the decision phase, the execute phase, and the evaluate phase. And again, to bring it back to sort of like a US constitutional law, you could conceive of the propose and decide phase as being a legislative or deliberative phase of governance, the executive phase or the execute phase as an executive phase, and then the evaluate phase as a judicial phase. And so you see that there develops some sort of balance of power between these different phases of an action. So to take you through just sort of a quick example, if you were in a DAO that wanted to mint an NFT collection, you would make a proposal to say, okay, we want to mint an NFT collection. You would vote on whether or not that was a good idea. Someone would then build the NFT collection, launch it, do all the work necessary to actually make that action happen. And then you would evaluate whether or not the person who was given managerial responsibility to execute that action actually executed it according to the will of the legislative and deliberative process, which is the propose and decide phase. And so that's the framework with which we decided to approach the question of meta governance. How do we arrive at better decisions? How do we change the rules of governance to make it a little bit more responsive and a little bit harder to capture? So let's talk about the what we actually built and the core components of it. First is the DAO factory. So we used the Moloch DAO. We stole a lot of their code, which, to be fair, they asked us to. This means that we use a share loot token structure to control treasury funds, shares being voting shares and loot being just a pure treasury token. They are non-transferable and representative of value within the treasury. So they are not valuable within in and of themselves or tradable on the open market. It means that any person can exit from the DAO at any time with like a rage quit mechanism, but they can also be committed to actions, which we'll get into a little bit earlier. We replaced the Moloch proposals with our action-based decision-making model, which I described sort of in the last phase, this 4-phase model. So now let's talk about the action factory, which is a smart contract state machine. This allows for the staking of voting shares to signal support for an action. So when someone proposes an action to the DAO, people can use their shares to not only signal their intention to support it or that it's a good idea, but also to assign it some level of budget. The actions cycle through the states from the deliberative phase to the execution phase to the evaluative phase, and each action is stewarded by an agent within the system who has managerial responsibility over bringing that action to completion. Now, the novel innovation of DoerDAO is what we call a liquid hierarchy. And basically what happens is the action factory is a recursive smart contract factory. So if we go back here to the action phases, basically when you make a proposal within this action framework, so say there is a larger proposal, again, let's take the example of an NFT mint. Someone says, okay, we should mint an NFT. That is the larger action. It enters a proposal phase and people start proposing sub-actions of what needs to be done. Okay, we need an artist who is going to make the art. We need a Solidity developer who's going to build the smart contract, the minting contract. We need marketing people who are going to promote this on Twitter, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of proposals for action that are in support of that larger goal. And so we, basically conceptualize this as, a recursive tree structure, where managerial authority at the top level has no spending authority, but as you continue to go on and on throughout the hierarchy, creating subjobs and subjobs and subjobs of subjobs, eventually you get to the exit condition of the recursive loop, which is when there is no sub-actions of a proposal. So when the action is the proposal and it's just something that needs to be done, that is a bounty. So that is the bottom of the recursive loop. It's how we delegate spending authority down to the lowest levels of the hierarchy when where funds actually need to be spent, where there is actually, there's actionable proposals. And that spend can either happen before the execution phase or after the execution phase, depending on whether or not it's something that needs to be invested in or whether or not it's a bounty for work done. And then once the action is complete, once you hit that end condition, again, there is a hierarchy of managerial responsibility that forms in support of this action. And once they're complete, the hierarchy dissipates and you return to a DAO with a flat hierarchy and a liquid treasury, which can take on new proposals for action. So what are some applications of this? One of the things we were thinking about is a consensual local tax. Where someone could go around to their neighborhood and get a donation into a DAO that's structured like this. And then community members could make proposals to that DAO to say, fill potholes or, fund food banks and everything like that. In US legal terms, it could be structured as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, charitable nonprofit organization, and then it is certainly possible that could count against someone's federal taxes, which would again then make this a consensual local tax. And so it's a way of possibly implementing these community building structures and mutual aid networks, which could be highly beneficial. Also, probably very useful for cults. I imagine cults would make a lot of use of it as well. And Meltem Demirs asked this question: who's building coordination tools for cults? That's us. Speaking of cults, here's another example. You could use this to make a YouTube channel. I personally run a YouTube channel, Crypto Bo. Go check it out. And it would allow this sort of action-based structure would allow me, of course, I would have to form like an LLC in Wyoming that could exist as a DAO in order to funnel like AdSense revenue back into the DAO. So it gets a little complicated there, but once there is money in the DAO, it would allow community members to make proposals for videos that they would want to see or series that they want to see created, and allow each part of the production process to be bountied out either to the community that is formed around the channel or to the larger community, that is just looking for work and has the skills to write, research, edit, or film something. Third example, and this one is the one that I've been giving sort of this whole time, is the example of an NFT artist. And this one we think actually makes the most sense because you don't have to deal with any of the complex legal structures. So no 501c3, no Wyoming LLC, because all of the economic activity is self-contained within whichever chain this is deployed to. If you're releasing NFTs with this structure, it would just be an easy way to gather funding, gather a community, and then make proposals of that community to either support other artists or support other artistic endeavors, or any sort of direct action campaign that arises from a community deliberative process. So why fund us and how do we monetize? Just a fun tweet as to why Web3 people don't know how to monetize. First and foremost, we are still chasing bounties. We submitted to obviously to the in-person hackathon, and now we're resubmitting to the virtual hackathon this Sunday. These are some of the specific bounties that we'll be looking at, not exclusively these, but also some others. Harmony, obviously we can deploy to the Harmony network as an EVM compatible chain. And we are just sort of helping, we think, the development of the DAO ecosystem. One of the ways that we are implementing bounty payments is through a superfluid setup, which allows you to take your bounty over time. You have a little bit more of a consistent income rather than taking it as one lump sum. One of the things that we're coming down to the wire and trying to implement before our submission to the virtual hackathon is a superfluid system that burns shares, which would theoretically allow someone to come who is not a part of the DAO, have voting shares that decay over time, which basically would give them temporary membership in the DAO after they complete one job. And the idea would be that they leverage that. They keep on working in the ecosystem as long as they are allowed to, and then either decide to move on or to do more work, which gives them permanent membership into the DAO. Also, Opolis for mostly US users But yeah, 401ks and healthcare are probably a pretty nice addition to this sort of decentralized work model. And then, a lot of wallet integrations, Tally specifically. Thank you, Tally, for giving us a bounty already. We still integrate them as well as the Coinbase wallet and MetaMask wallet. Also, we're just a public good, that's we're like a lighthouse. We're just there to try and ideally that's how we see ourselves, is as a public good, as something that is self-evidently valuable, that is not like necessarily looking for a monetization strategy, but should just exist. I think at the end of the day, the entire team agrees that this sort of conversation around meta governance, arriving at better decision-making models and using DAOs as a mechanism to evolve our conception of governance is something that is good. And our solution may not be the perfect solution. We would love other developers to come along and help us develop a more perfect solution, but we imagine that this field of evolving emergent governance is something that just should exist and that we should continue to work on. And so, we're looking for grants. We're also looking for partnerships. We're talking specifically to Claros as well as Gitcoin. And then we have relationships with all these sort of existing meta governance frameworks, DAO House, Aragon, Colony, so on and so forth. But we are necessary. Like I said, shit's fucked. The world's on fire. Our leaders are asleep at the wheel. And if we don't do anything, then we will just stop existing as a species, most likely. And we think that the most important thing to solving these large global problems is finding ways to better come to consensus and make swifter decisions and incentivize leadership in the right direction. So incentivize leadership for leadership's sake rather than power for power's sake, which is something that we can tweak with a thoughtful meta governance framework. So how do we make money? We're not sure. I mean, we have some ideas. Any DAO that is instantiated as a sub DAO of ours could theoretically be paying some tax to us. We could be taking consulting contracts by virtue of the fact that we invented this sort of structure. Maybe that makes us experts and means that people might want to hire us to help them build their DAOs. Also content production, we can be producing YouTube videos and things like that. I mean, I'm already doing that. The point is that DoerDAO itself is not, the point of DoerDAO itself is not to make money, but everything created in this framework can. Like I said, there are all these tangible examples of things that we thought this would be a perfect fit for. And there are, I mean, the possibilities are limitless as far as what you can build with this sort of structure. And so it's, this company specifically may have a tough time generating revenue, but we're open to ideas. So where do we go from here? This is a roadmap for the 2022 to 2023. It ends at ETHDenver next year, which is where we started the project earlier this year, where hopefully, we'll be moving to some sort of open or to some sort of full release, maybe a 1.0 that we'll be demoing in the conference. But how do we get there? The first couple of things that we want to implement, again, like I had mentioned earlier, the temporary DAO membership stream that's enabled by Superfluid. Also, a new way of conceiving of grant funding, which we call a collaborative grant funding mechanism, whereby you could create, again, thinking through this action framework, a company that wants to fund DoerDAO, for instance, could create an action that is only payable back to that company. And so the idea would be that they are promising labor in exchange for influence over the direction of development within the DAO. And so they would commit money, which would confer them voting shares. And then we would contract out to them in order for them to integrate with our platform. And so we'd be hiring, they would fund us to hire them to do the work of integrating their things. Again, it's like you can conceptualize it as a grant with more tangible strings attached to it rather than just a lump sum of money. After that, we want to be implementing new voting parameters. So if you remember, there is the proposal phase and then the decision phase. The decision phase is where voting happens. And right now we have it implemented as just a first past the post. We want to be able to implement liquid delegation schemes as well as ranked choice voting. We also need to parameterize justice. So when you evaluate an action that's being executed, we need to be able to have an internal evaluative mechanism to decide whether, internally, whether or not the action was done correctly. And then there also needs to be an external arbitration mechanism, which could be something like Claros courts or Aragon courts. But those are the sort of next step integrations for us and the precursors to what would be a closed alpha for a community, because at that point we have we think a pretty finished product, and that's when we move into the actual community testing, and then hopefully by October 22 are getting a smart contract audit, and thinking a little bit more consciously about wallet recovery and security, which is a larger problem in the DAO ecosystem. People lose wallets. People aren't good with crypto security just in general, by, as evidenced by the fact that people are getting fucking constantly hacked. So, that's something that needs to be, I think, thought about, and maybe an unsolved problem or possibly an unsolvable problem. We don't think so. But again, something that we need to be giving a little bit more thought to. By December 2022, we hope to have fully DAOified the CryptoBo YouTube channel within this framework, and then open move to full open beta in preparation for, again, a 1.0 launch around the time of ETHDenver in February 2023. But anyway, thank you for your time. I hope that I was, informative and that this was thought-provoking. Yeah, I'm ready for any questions that you might have.
Yep. Thank you very much, Bru. The whole session is actually, I think it's make a lot of sense to me. And just for information, we do provide a lot of grants, actually. We have long-term Dora community grants that to support the projects that we think who need grants, or they could be very long-term. So we run like 2 to 3 times every year, and feel free to apply if you think you need it. And also, so basically DoraHacks is have some passionate about the DAO sector. And actually, we have incubated our own DAO as a services product called the Dora Factory. And I believe there are definitely a lot of things that we could discuss about in the DAO area, and how to operate and make the DAO flow workflow more efficient and more transparent in many ways. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we would love to have that conversation. And yeah, we will, of course, be applying to your grant program.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, I think my teammate could send you about the link later.
Okay. Yeah. And sure. We will have, by the way, just by way of saying this, we will have a more robust, like actual, hopefully functioning front end when we submit on Sunday for the virtual hackathon. And so this was sort of a more conceptual presentation, but we hope to have a more tangible one Sunday morning.
Yeah, cool. Definitely looking forward to see how it goes. And also I've seen the roadmap has last till the next year's ETHDenver. So yeah, probably see you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. We're gonna move to the next project, which is the Kiyomi. So Sean, feel free to start when you're ready.
Hi, I think what we're going to do is going to do an interactive presentation. So I will go over the deck and then shoot it over to Sean, who will do a live demo, if that's fine.
Yep, totally.
Yep, and Afina, another team member, just joined as well. Okay, so can I just go ahead and share my screen?
For sure. Feel free to start.
All right, cool. Sean, just checking in. Are you able to share your screen afterwards too? Just want to make sure he's there. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So can you guys see our screen?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for having us on this live video stream. So today, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of Kiyomi Wallet and what we actually built during ETHDenver. So Kiyomi overall, we like to call it as a social wallet. And so, before we dive into a demo or discuss what we're actually working on and what we built at ETHDenver, I just wanted to share with you a bit of our thesis and thinking behind NFTs. I think a lot of times, in present times, people think about NFTs as just being JPEGs for most of the part, just the visual aspect of it, and forget that just in general, NFTs are more than just media, right? They can be used to represent almost anything of value. In particular, in our case, we believe that NFTs are experiences. They're more than just media experiences, and also that they're more than just assets, as virtual items and physical items that might be represented in NFTs. They can allow for different kinds of interactions. And behind that thesis also is that we believe that the future of NFTs is social, it's interactive, and it's fun. And that's really kind of like the three core driving premises for what we're working on for Kiyomi and also for Open DAO Technologies. And so we believe primarily that the future of NFTs is really yours to create. And so Kiyomi overall is an application that allows you to display and play with NFTs. In short, it is a non-custodial, immersive, social wallet. And we kind of put wallet in quotation marks because we feel that that term has been overloaded over the past few years. If you guys have experienced kind of sharing the world of crypto with your parents or your nieces, nephews, or kids, it's easy to realize that the term wallet is often confused with other kind of physical items. And so in our case, we like to think of it as a way of a portal or a gateway into interacting more immersively with your non-fungible tokens or assets. And so we'd like to say, without being so focused on gaming, is that it's designed and engineered and ready for the quote unquote metaverse. And so before I dive into discussing what we built at ETHDenver in particular, I just kind of like to give Sean the time to do a quick demo, maybe on what it's like to kind of interact with NFTs in augmented space. So Sean, I'll hand it over to you, and then we'll bring it back to us here.
Sure. Let me do my screen.
And so in short, maybe to give you a bit of context, it's a wallet that started being built in Solana, and the programming model and also the account model for NFTs in Solana is very different than the world of EVM and Ethereum. And it's actually also the way to represent NFTs is also pretty different overall. So this is how we started the project just a few weeks ago, building this kind of wallet. But in particular, it's based on our work as PhDs on augmented reality and also a bit on the gaming side. And so it's essentially a wallet designed to kind of be able to interact with NFTs in augmented space, decorate your physical rooms, kind of share these views with other folks if you want to, and also kind of in mind towards the future of what we're working on. It's also being able to kind of physically interact with NFTs across any location. So you might imagine having like a geolocation mint or dropping NFTs in particular locations like New York City, for example, and making things more immersive or more interactive. And so in the case of our focus, we've keenly focused on gaming. And so when you think about gaming, I'll let Sean show this one. And so when you think about gaming, overall, gaming is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be interactive. And so if you think about the next generation of NFTs that are tailored to gaming, these are more than just JPEGs. These are more than 3D models. There's a possibility to embed not only the visual aspect or the visual asset, but also audio and also spatial parameters, meaning that your NFT can interact as you approach it if you're able to kind of anchor it in a physical space. And as well, I think there's also the the notion that perhaps we can collaborate across different NFTs. So we can decorate virtual or physical environments with music or sound NFTs, with gaming NFTs, photographs, and kind of create new experiences. And so overall, this has been really the concept behind the wallet that we started building out. And so maybe I'll bring it back now to discuss what was really built at ETHDenver, and then I'll shoot it over back to Sean as well. And so when we arrived to ETHDenver, we wanted to take it to the next level. We really wanted to make, our wallet that we're building for a game kind of multi-chain, because in reality, when you think about the upcoming years and a multi-chain ecosystem, the way to interact with NFTs should be almost seamless, right? Should we just be able to perhaps use your NFTs or any EVM chain within a single wallet without you having to actually notice that you're crossing between chains, and similar to transactions that take place. And so in particular, we started thinking, like during that past week was, what do we need to kind of make our wallet multi-chain? So we had support of Solana. We've been in Ethereum for quite a while. And so we started researching, the notions of the infrastructure. So working on tracker nodes so that we actually then index the Ethereum blockchain and then monitor transactions that took place. And so that was one of the things that took us a bit of a while, kind of understanding also the infrastructure that it took. The other part is also getting to know more about the standards really and the metadata that is stored really on chain and across different decentralized storage like IPFS and Arweave. And we realized a whole bunch of things, like, for example, that the metadata standard was quote unquote proposed by OpenSea, and they had different versions, but not every mint follow that standard. There was different kind of properties that we had to consider to extract just images and even 3D model and music. And so that was a lot of time that was spent kind of building that infrastructure to support it as well. And so after a few days of hacking, we were able to kind of have this infrastructure ready to be able to turn our wallet into a multi-chain wallet that allows you to kind of query NFTs that are on the Ethereum blockchain. So then afterwards, we realized that, just because we're in Ethereum means that we could also be EVM compatible if we were to just kind of index other chains. And so in particular ourselves, we've been in the Polkadot ecosystem or the .sama ecosystem for some time. And Moonbeam was there and we were chatting for quite a while. And we realized that we could bring that functionality also to Moonbeam. So that means that we could support Moonbeam NFTs. Moonbeam is an EVM parachain currently on the Polkadot ecosystem. But then, as we were kind of exploring also the, sorry, just a second. So when we were just thinking about, what are some of the problems that multi-chain ecosystems like .sama, so the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem experience, in particular, and not just within these multi-chain ecosystems, anything related to governance is pretty hard, right? It's really tough to kind of increase activity in governance to get people to vote, and that's why we usually have delegation and so on. But one of the interesting parts about the framework that's used to create some of these parachains in Polkadot and Kusama is that we can have palettes that allow us to have on-chain governance, I mean, allowing people to vote for particular proposals within a given parachain. And so in that context, we started thinking about, well, how can we, bring that experience to our mobile wallet? And so we started looking at different experiences across, the Web 2.0 world. There's certain apps across Asia which support the notion of mini apps. And so what we did is essentially just kind of just modified our current experience for the wallet and focus on perhaps allowing particular users from our wallet to kind of have this notion of mini apps. And so the flow really is that, for example, if you were to hold things like DOD or Mover, which is the Moonbeam token, then perhaps you're given the ability to download a governance mini app into the wallet directly, which then allows you to vote directly for your mobile app. And similarly, we started thinking about, well, if we have this concept, well, perhaps also if you hold particular NFTs for given projects, then you can also download respective mini apps. So in the context of what we do, which is, gaming, we start playing around with what if people were holding our NFTs and we want to give them a mini experience or a tiller experience within the wallet itself. And that's where the concept of the mini DAPP kind of came about. And what we ended up doing is we ended up going towards what is called the governance precompile in Moonbeam, which is essentially a EVM or Solidity contract that was deployed in Moonbeam that allows us to directly vote on chain, and then we hook that up to our wallet. And so essentially people were able to make proposals, look at proposals, and also vote directly through wallet. So I'll let Sean take over now and show you briefly, guys, what that was.
So so basically, like for here, we have like the mini app. So this is what Alban was mentioned earlier. So like we have like maybe one of these is like you can doing the gaming like with the AR the feature. So see. Also, we have like a different dancing mini app as well.
So I think it's flipped, but this is a motion tracking mini app. So as part of our research back at school, we started looking into motion tracking using cameras. And so monocular slam, but also binocular slam as well. And we started building this kind of mini apps that we could deploy. And we already kind of messed around with this. It was very simple to kind of integrate. And finally, this is what a really simple user interface. We have upgraded this already. And so we'll be deploying this really to our next test flight. But essentially is what the governance flow looks like on Moonbeam. So if you guys go search for Moonbeam governance, you see what that looks like. And essentially what we're doing behind the scenes is just querying that contract and allowing users to kind of sign some of these proposals. There is one quick, hiccup. Where does a hiccup? But one thing that was really missing was the ability to decode the actual text, which Moonbeam is kind of working on, so we can directly do it through a Web3 JS or a Web3 SDK instead of going to the Polkadot.js SDK to be able to decode some of these this text. So kind of to summarize, I'll just go back to my screen. Yeah, so when we started thinking about it, it was really those two things. We wanted to make our wallet, scale it out and build out a few more features. In particular, we wanted to make it multi-chain, and we worked on infrastructure to support that. So now we support. Oh wait, actually, Sean, can you show? Because one thing we didn't show is the EVM or the Ethereum NFTs. Maybe you can showcase that really quick. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. Okay.
So I think you can really see what's happening there, but essentially Sean is able to kind of showcase Ethereum NFTs just by scanning someone's QR code. So that could be anybody's code, or that could be a regular Ethereum address, and we're able to immediately just pull these NFTs. So as you can see, that's Mew and Ape, and there's an ETH Boston POAP, and that's Rabata's airdrop. And then the Buffycorn, we also have a Buffycorn there. That's from Sean's wallet. He's got like 20, I think, Buffycorns set up. But this is just showcasing, that we worked on the infrastructure to be able to query Ethereum NFTs or ERC-721s and ERC-1155 5s. But yeah, that's a quick demo. So maybe to summarize, I'll just hop on over. Yeah, so those are the two core things, kind of first started supporting EVM compatible chains. So now what this means for us in the near future is that we're also now able to support Avalanche after kind of indexing their blockchain and other EVM compatible chains. And the second part that we're really working on was kind of redefining the way that our mobile wallet would work. And this is where we brought up the concept of the mini app or the mini dApps, where essentially because the user holds particular tokens, NFTs or fungible tokens, and perhaps to get the opportunity to download mini experiences that perhaps the creators of an NFT project or a project itself can deploy through an SDK that we'll be making available in the near future. But yep, that's it for now. These are some of the problems again that we covered, which is just related to governance in Moonbeam. And yeah, so this is us. Thanks a bunch for having us here, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for the Kiyomi team to do the presentation here. Actually, I have seen your demo at the ETHDenver last days. It was pretty impressive, and today we could see that you guys have achieved some progress after the ETHDenver. So congratulations on that. And so in my personal opinion, I think in the future, one of the main fees for the future digital wallets gonna be social, and it is very clearly that you guys have already covered that part, and so I think that's pretty funny and very, I mean, there's a lot of space to imagine you guys' future about it. So yeah, I would say very nice job, and congratulations on that. Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also, if there's any projects, you know, that are watching this and or collectors or creators that want to collaborate with us and kind of help shape these experiences, or perhaps, you know, connect with our wallet, then we would love to hear from you guys and also get any feedback or comments.
Yep.
And thank you.
That'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you again for the presentation. Really appreciate the time from you guys. Yeah, and I think that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for again for doing such a wonderful presentation, and I believe this is super interesting to see what you guys are trying to do and trying to build in the future. Yeah, and if you haven't followed us on YouTube, please make sure you do that, so you won't miss out any of the upcoming events like today's. And hope you guys doing great in the future. Kickstart the next best product in the industry, and happy building in the future. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, and have a great one. See you guys soon.
Thank you, BUIDL. Thank you, DoraHacks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.